Okay, it should be live now.
Live? Live or recording?
No, we're on Facebook Live now.
No.
This is live action, Cal.
I wasn't prepared for that.
It's about as live as I get. Recorded.
Where are we and what are we doing here and who are you?
I'm Josh Wallace, aka Woody Wyandotte. I've been having a lot of reflection and a lot of thought this past year. Pretty much shut myself off from everybody, didn't talk to anybody, and tried to figure out who I was. So I thought this year with Indian, I was going to create an elaborate schedule to some of the questions that I had troubles with, and utilize my platform this year to maybe give some advice for my kids down the road and maybe some that helps people right now.
Is it my turn now?
Yeah.
I'm Calvin. I go by Cal on Instagram, mostly MotoCal. And Josh asked me to be a part of this, and the only reason that he could give me on why he wanted me to do it was because he felt like it could talk to me easily. Is that the right wording?
Yeah.
That's right. So here I am. Whether or not I'm the right choice, but honored still to be a part of it and try it out. So let's do it.
Right. We're gonna fumble until we figure shit out.
Yep. Shifting perspectives. Of course, we have to choose a word that I can't say very easy, right? So,
Yeah.
but it sounds really good. I like it.
We can say it in Wyandotte if you want.
That one's worse for me. So why the hard questions? Why did you want to? You said it was, has to do with your kids sometimes, or a reason why you wanted to do the hard questions. Why else did you want to address some of these hard questions?
Part of the reason I wanted to answer them is because I felt like I had no guidance on them. Like we're told to, well, in my demographic and generation, we were told to, there's no reason for you to ever be lazy. You always have something to do. And that's complete backwards because that's the only time we get to know ourselves is in that time. So we continually ingrain that we're always supposed to be busy, so we always feel guilty if we're not, and we're in like a hindsight. We lose a little bit either way instead of understanding it beforehand.
So being quiet, not having nothing to do, is actually beneficial.
Well, if you or anybody was like me, man, my skin crawled when I was set still. I'd be sitting with my own thoughts. I always had to do something for somebody to get out of my own head or make a video, find something to do to get out of my head.
Right.
Then we're told to pretty much look in the sky, look on the internet, do whatever we need to figure out who we are, and that's not at all where you go to do it. You got to sit there with those shitty thoughts and moments, the ones that I ran away from, anyways.
Yeah, I can agree with that. So the last 3 years ago, I changed jobs. I got a government job, and before that, I was doing service house calls and side jobs on top of that, family, kids, right?
Yeah.
Also, motorcycle stuff. I was IMRG chapter president, so I know what you mean as well in a different way. Um, I was told that I needed to cut back, actually by our dealership owner, and she said it to me several times. It's like this stuff that we're doing, like it's fun and all, and you're doing cool stuff. Um, Proud of you and all that, but are you are you taking care of your kids? Are you spending enough time with your kids? That's all she was worried about.
That
And
question
so,
usually comes up after we've already done it, though.
what's that?
I said we usually think of that question after it's already past the.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of why I bring it up because she said it several times, and I was like, why does she keep saying that? What, why, why does she feel like she needs to keep asking if I'm, being there for my kids, et cetera, et cetera. It's not like I was absent,
Thinking.
right?
Yeah.
But it got me thinking, and then I became an ambassador right after I got a new job. The new job was a lot less hectic than my previous job, and I was able to slow down a little bit. And then I did get to thinking, became an ambassador. I got to thinking, man, maybe I am doing too much, and needed to cut back. And so I resigned at the end of the year. That next year as a chapter president.
I remember
It's
that.
been a little bit different uh, to have time and to have nothing to do. I have Friday mornings all to myself because I work 4 10s, and so wife's at work, kids are at school for a half a day, and so I have nothing to do at that point. And before, when I first started having Fridays off, I was trying to fill it with side work, making
Yeah.
sure or trying to make sure that I had work to do, which is good money.
This isn't productive taking off and resting.
Right. Yeah. Like, and 2 years later, after, the first year of doing that, and cutting back up with the IMRG, I do side jobs here and there, a handful a year still, but, I've thought a lot more of my time is more valuable than doing side work, even though I'm not always there with the kids. It's a half a day all to myself, but I can go take care of business however I want.
Yep.
Drop motorcycle parts off to get painted like I did today. So,
Well, that, and I justified it saying, well, I'm showing them how to live. I might be busy and not around like I want to be, but they're going to know that this is what fun looks like. And that was completely wrong, too. I was, I was very, very short sighted. I looked how this would affect the family in the next month or year instead of how this is going to affect their development. So like right now, I've got a 5-year-old and a 13-year-old, and they're right in the fundamental stage of pretty much learning and making their own concepts right now. So I don't want them to think that they have to get pieces of everybody else's to understand what they're supposed to do instead of
figuring it out.
later in life. So like I told my daughter, if you think of life as a fisherman, if you boil everything down, we're considered the fishermen. Water is the current, it's the currency, it's money. And then our dream is the fish. And my entire generation, we were taught to fucking fish for the money, for the water instead of the fish. So if we catch that water, we're never going to have enough. We'll never be satisfied. But if we go for the fish, there'll always be enough water for us to catch that fish. Does that make sense?
It does.
So we're
I'm gonna have to rethink on that though too. But I like that.
and we're continually made to be productive from when we wake up to when we go to sleep, and
Yeah.
that gives us no time for self-reflection or even understanding what our feelings or emotions even mean. I mean, I
So
just
what
huh?
I was gonna say, so what for those that aren't familiar with your story, what changed that you had so much time for self-reflection and thinking and doing all that?
In 2023, I was headed to Durango, Colorado to hang out with you, and got in a wreck on the way in the Oklahoma Panhandle, and spent 3 months in the hospital, losing my leg, losing my bike, losing my identity, and just about everything else that comes with who I thought I was. But when that wreck first happened, everybody kept saying, "Oh, God saved you and spared you for a reason."
Hmm.
And my head, being selfish, was thinking some grandiose, "Oh, I'm meant to change the world or do something better." But I came to realize that's not really how I think now either. It's not I was saved to do something. It's I'm here so maybe I can hold that door open for the next person, or maybe help that lady carry in groceries, do something. You know what I mean? Simple stuff.
Little stuff.
I put everything on a grandiose scale instead of boiling it down to what's in my life actually,
Right.
And that was kind of a self culture shock pretty much. Or it was a shock to my system because I didn't know what I believed. I didn't know who to listen to believe. You know what I mean? Everybody had advice, but none of it matched.
Hmm. I bet you got a lot of advice. Or did you during that time? Was there a lot of too much advice and it was all different or what?
Yeah, I got a ton. So like I didn't look at my phone the first 2 weeks I was in the hospital, I think. Because every time I opened my Instagram, I got sick to my stomach. Just seeing the shit I posted right before the accident. So I literally took a picture of the storm that I rode into and had the accident in. And that was my last picture on my phone. So I couldn't look at pictures. I couldn't look at Instagram. I had like 470 messages, and my head was so fucked. I didn't even know how to answer anything.
So to sift through all of that advice, bad advice, wrong advice, or good advice, but totally conflicted with somebody else's good advice, how did you sift through all of that? How did you come out on the other side where you are now? Obviously, it's been a long time coming, or a long time to get here. But how'd you get there?
I got stuck in the fucking wheelchair. That's how I got there.
Yeah.
If I could have got up and ran, I would have. But I just sat there, and I my back was all messed up, so I couldn't even wheel myself in the wheelchair or pull all the staples out of my back. So I just had to sit there. And then my biggest enemy my entire life was my own head because I
Mhm.
didn't know it, and I never even thought to learn it. It took somebody for me to tell me that maybe you should understand why those feelings and emotions hit you and what they're actually meaning to your body instead of just doom or gloom every time it happened. You know what I mean?
So somebody told you that, and how'd you how'd you get to how did you figure out how to understand all that?
I didn't at the time. It's like one of those things that your parents tell you that it just goes in one ear and out the other, and then you think of it down the road, and it clicks in your head, like you see a different level of it.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like every time you read a book, it feels like a different story because it's a different perspective of you reading it. You know what I mean?
Even though it's the same book, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you.
And it scared me because with this AI and everything coming, our kids are still being taught how to do jobs that aren't going to be around when they graduate. You know what I mean? So why are they still teaching that when that's not going to be relevant when they get out of school?
Not teaching into the future.
Yeah, they're teaching how to be accountants and how to do uh, repetitive work, which that's all going to be gone. It's so somebody compared this wave of technology as the equivalent of the wave when the internet hit, but it's along the line of when mankind got electricity because it will be in every aspect of healthcare, government. I mean, the day of having man with authority over you is pretty much going to be gone pretty quick. And I'm not trying to sound like a conspiracy theorist. I've just been studying and researching how to build AI. So I see the potential it comes with that people don't really see yet.
Yeah, we were just kind of having this conversation before we started the call. You were on the call, but I haven't used Chat GPT yet. Didn't think I had a use for it. And
Right.
like you're saying, you know, um, I've used AI to create images, but it's like people, like you were saying, I think I like the energy or the internet analogy. That might be closer because people realized, oh, that's a cool tool, you know, but didn't realize how much they would be using it in the future. I think you're right on along those lines. Same with the same thing with AI. We're
I
gonna
mean, as regards to as big as electricity helped our everyday lives,
right,
that's what it's going to be
right,
equivalent to,
and
not just. Uh,
how much did the internet help our everyday lives? Right, you know, it changed dramatically. There's you know, HVAC, air conditioning was a big one too. You know, it was kind of just nice, but now you've got cities and places like Nevada that can thrive because of air conditioning. People don't realize the scope of how wide, how big things are going to be, how important things are going to be until people start using it the way that it should be, right? To its
yeah,
full potential.
that's what I've been. I set up a plan for me and my daughter. We're going to start working every day for an hour and build her private AI that she can ask questions to, and nobody can, me or her mom can't get involved in it. She has somebody that she can just have there to, she don't have to be scared to ask anything.
So as a father, how do you feel about that though? In you know, I haven't thought about using it. It's similar to a diary, but can respond, right? It's
Yeah.
kind of like that.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that? Um, do you have a feeling that AI would replace you in asking you questions? Those like we've been talking about hard questions. Are you scared of that?
Yeah. You don't know my honest thought, or
Okay.
you want to know my thought for here?
I thought that's why we were here, is for honest thoughts.
My theory is within the next 100 to 200 years, there won't be a man, a mankind, a humanity will be more different than chimps to humans from us to what we will be in 200 years because we'll be able to alter anything we want. And so this world has had so much vast resources and so much databases for the internet, but nobody's had the computing process to put all that together until now. And so now you have everything coming together under one centralized thought process. And it's not going to happen anytime soon, but if you think of everything being able to be in your head when you make a decision, you know what I mean?
To know what's going to happen depending on those situations or those
Yeah.
decisions.
Like, oh, humans are going to mess this up. They're going to get emotional and piss somebody off, so we better not let them do that.
Been plenty of movies about artificial intelligence
Yeah, but it's not scary like
stopping mankind from making mistakes and then humankind revolts, right, and takes it back.
Yep.
You think, if getting to that point 200-300 years down the road, do you think before that there will be some kind of a humankind revolution?
I could see it because basically the people that are building the foundation of our AI right now are unelected officials.
Hmm.
I mean, you got Silicon Valley making AIs for the entire world on their perspectives. And it's not going to be a variation. It'll be one company that controls all of it after a while. So the only thing scary about AI is it's going to be how we built it. So history says anything, we're probably not going to build it to its capacity.
Probably not going to, you said?
Yeah.
So going back to, are you afraid of your daughter going to AI to ask questions, any questions, hard questions, easy questions, instead of you? Why are you encouraging her to use it?
Because as a person with emotions, I know what it's like to be scared to tell certain people things, even the ones that are protecting you and taking care of you. You don't want to have them think of you differently.
Hmm.
I don't know, like, so when I was in junior high and high school, and pretty much my entire 20s, everybody said that confidence is the key to everything. Confidence is the secret to getting whatever you want. And my perspective on that was when I went in a room and people were talking about something I didn't know, I was quiet. And so the quieter I was, which meant the less I knew, the more confident everybody thought I was. So I'm getting praised thinking I'm confident and doing what I'm doing right, and I'm not learning anything. Mankind's only capacity for learning and remembering is pain. For some reason, we were taught to learn and remember through pain and what our body feels from stuff instead of being proactive. Instead of understanding, oh, this feeling's coming on, I know what's coming with it. We don't wait to react to it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, where's your doctor friend that can come on an episode and talk about that?
Dr. Jennifer Gladney.
Is she a doctor?
No.
She's super smart, right? But
Oh, I don't know if she has a doctorate or not. Never asked her.
her actual education, yeah. Talking about you, Jen.
Yeah, we'll have to bring her on here one of these times.
I think it'd be a good addition. So, and maybe this is a really easy question. Why do you feel like you need to do it now?
I feel like where we're at collectively, not just in the US, but everywhere, that our children aren't going to have as good of a start in this. They're not going to have the education they need for the advancement that's going to be there when they're needing it. You know what I mean?
It's things are moving way too quick for them to keep up with, especially applying it for in a school setting.
You teach your kid how to be an accountant, and it comes between your kid and a computer that can do it for no money and never sleeps. Who are you going to buy? Who are you going to pay for?
Right.
And our entire political and government system just looks at us as like biological batteries. If we look at ourselves as a battery, do we want to waste our energy giving somebody else the life they want, or give it to ourselves and our kids? But a lot of people don't realize they're fishing for that water until they get 20 years in a career, and it's too scary to leave because they worked 20 years for it. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like all of our life and thoughts are based on fear of what's going to happen instead of fear of what could happen. And AI is just like a kid. If you train it to be good and helpful to humans, it's going to do it. If you train it to leverage profit and efficiency, it'll just create a further hole than that we're in right now. This wasn't supposed to be all doom and gloom, you know. That's another thing. Growing up, all these adults and stuff, they'd say, you can be anything you want to be, kid. But they never said how to fucking do it. Like, oh, I asked my math teacher how to become an astronaut. She says I need to know all of the equations for math instead of seeing takes a holistic approach instead of going at it from your specialty. Just like everything else. We're taught to go off our strengths, and nobody knows what their fucking strengths and weaknesses are. Like, if you would have asked me that before my wreck, I would have said I'm a hard worker, I'm efficient, I'm always on time. None of that shit's important to me. It's like my least three favorite qualities of work. And I'm not saying I was on time. I probably wasn't on time. That's what I would describe myself as. How could I benefit you instead of what is my thoughts?
Well, and I understand where you're coming from on that too, but is being proud of those aspects, could that can be important to you, right? Being on time and being a hard worker, and you can still be proud of that, right?
Yeah, I'm not saying it's not a strength. I'm just saying that's how I would describe my strengths if you asked me that.
Yeah. But that's a strength that benefits somebody else.
Whatever you take pride in is a strength.
All right.
Because you subconsciously lean towards your strengths anyways, of what you evaluated from yourself. And so if you see somebody go up and public speak and they look nervous, when you go up to do it the next time, that feeling will hit you and you don't know. You say, well, this is my only experience I remember. So this is how he was, so I should be nervous too. So you see how other people act and react to things, and you're constantly putting yourself in their shoes instead of how would I look at this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we spend our entire life to learn how to get up on time and how to make sure our jobs are complete and we excel at them. That's that's hard to do. We're taught to be emotionless and efficient instead of using our real human strengths and weaknesses. Because it's life's, I mean, your strengths and weaknesses are basically like anything else in life. It's a swing. So if you look at your life as a line, your strengths and your weaknesses, you'll be back and forth on that line. So you need to learn how to use both of them and learn both of them instead of just saying, well, my strengths is going to be on time. So if I don't do anything today, at least I'll do that. That's a terrible way to look at it. That's how, that's how I looked at it too. If I get to work on time, the rest of the day will be easy. Just got to get there. Not that I was going to enjoy being there. Not that I was going to learn anything about me or what I wanted there. Like a lot of these questions are really, really weird when you stop to think about, like, why do I even believe this philosophy anyways? Well, it's just been handed down to us. That's kind of what I was thinking with this. Not really have answers, just give people a different way to think about shit.
Question question everything. Not to say that it's wrong, but question everything and
It's not bad to question. That's what
develop your own thoughts and conclusions, even though everybody's telling you this is how things are supposed to be.
well, that and learn to spot when you're doing stuff out of routine and not out of joy. So usually when you do something on routine, it's for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you do anything you love. You find what you love and make it your routine instead of what your routines are right now. It's just hard to figure ourselves out because we've never really been told to.
So, what do you what about when there is something that you used to enjoy doing and found joy in it, and you were doing it for you, but also for other people too, right? But you that's how you started out doing it. Uh, I'm going to invest in this for me because I want to do it, but then I'm going to make it more beneficial also for other people. And then you find yourself in that spot where
Why
feel
am I
like
ruining the thing I love?
you're doing it because everybody else expects you to be doing it now,
Yep.
and you don't really find joy in it, and you don't really get excited about doing that again. Do you think so? How do you get back on track for that? Doing it for you.
I don't know. My brain feels like it misfires all the time. So if I get an emotional feeling like that, I'll sit there and think about it, and then I'll think about it in an hour after I have forgotten it and see if my view's the same or if I'm still emotionally tied to it.
or
And
not even an hour later, a week later, a month later.
well, that's the thing, kind of like you were asking. So we dive in because we do find something we love, and then we overexhaust it until it has no emotion left to it. So the more we do it, the less we're trying to get that feeling we had at the first of it. And the more and more we try to get that feeling back, the duller it gets. So all you got to do is just shift your perspective on that. And it's very hard. I'm not saying that easily.
I used to fly the drone a lot, and I used to make videos, and
Yep. Until you put an
started.
expectation on it,
Mm-hmm.
that's what happens. It's not that putting expectations are bad, it's that our views are unrealistic. We pick the extreme best option, and if it doesn't get there, everything else is failure. Instead of shooting for the stars and seeing how far you can get, we're afraid to shoot because we don't want to hit low. But I had this question. I don't know if I sent it to you already. If I asked you to describe yourself without mentioning your job, your relationships, or your hobbies, could you do it?
You did, and actually, I think I remember. I'm trying to do like a career advancement thing because I feel like I'm at a dead end in my job, right? I don't have an education, so I can't really move into something different. So, and I think that was that it seemed to be worded very similar. And yeah, how easy is it to say, yeah, this is not the direction I should be going, and quit? I'm not saying it's bad. No, I'm not saying it's bad or anything right now, but it's like, okay, if I want to do something else, but I'm stuck. But to answer that question, I didn't. If I could describe myself, uh, or it would be how I hope other people, friends or family,
That's how I
my,
did it
my
at first.
kids, yeah, my kids, my wife, how they see me. And when I get to questions or things like that, I just don't even try.
Yeah, because we're taught to turn it off instead of seeing what it's meaning to you, what it really means to you. If it's making you uncomfortable, that means probably the direction you need to go.
Figure it out.
Everything seems to be backwards in what I was taught.
What if you don't answer that question or you avoid that question because you're afraid you might be disappointed in yourself?
Why would you be disappointed? It's the first time you paid attention to it.
That I know that, but yeah, well, I don't know because yeah, I'm to try and answer that. Yeah,
As a starting point, not a level.
it's what?
I said just think of it as a starting point, not as a
Yeah.
how high I am.
Yeah. Because to start answering that, it's gonna I'd start thinking, oh wow, how other people see me or whatever. It's like, well, that's not what I'm trying to do, but
Yeah, when I asked myself that, the first thing in my head I said, what would other people think of me? Or what would other people say?
yeah.
And I tried to pick what the best words they would say instead of even coming up with a word for myself.
And we're the ones that matter the most to answer that
Yep.
about ourselves. Yep.
As long as you're taught to look everywhere but inside yourself, you'll never find anything.
Perhaps I need some examples of how other people have answered that.
What do you mean?
Maybe I could. Oh yeah, well yeah, I see myself as that or that, But it's so easy just to start thinking about what other people think and how other people view you that it can be more difficult to think about that for yourself,
Yeah, that's your instinctual response. Well, mine was what other people thought and everything but what I needed to think of. But once we start seeing that, then that becomes our second nature thinking.
Did you answer that?
Yeah.
You want to share your responses?
Yeah, I'm going to read it though.
That's fine. You help me out. Trying maybe it'll help me answer it for myself.
So I put, if I asked you to describe yourself without mentioning your job, your relationships, or your hobbies, could you do it? And I put, before my wreck, I'm not sure I'd have an answer for that at all. I've always been someone who searches for more, but back then I wasn't searching in the right directions. I just kept moving physically, mentally, and constantly, but I never stopped long enough to actually face myself. I see myself as a person that thrives in movement. It's what kept me grounded, but when it was taken, I didn't have anything to lean on besides that. When I get nervous or when I get any kind of emotion, I naturally just start pacing or walking. And then once that was gone, I didn't have anywhere to run. But one thing when I was in that wheelchair is I had to sit with all the ugly shit inside. I had to sort out what was actually my thoughts, my guilt, my distractions, or was it other people's thoughts, guilt, or distractions? And I didn't really have any answers because I never asked myself what mine were. Just always been told to listen to whoever pays you. And looking inward wasn't some fucking stroll in the park either. It was painful, humiliating, and scary. I realized I spent more time trying to figure out how to fit into the world than figuring out how I actually was in it. And the scariest part, I didn't even know where to start. And it wasn't like once I started seeing everything was inside me, I had this moment of clarity. It was like me seeing this ball of yarn and trying to untangle it that had been knotted up for years. Every time I pulled on one piece, I found it was knotted on multiple strings. And I started getting this scary thought, what if there aren't any strings left when I get this cleaned up? What if all these strings were given to me from my experiences in society? Well, then I had another thought. What if I didn't have to hold on to any of the strings? What if instead of trying to put myself back together the way I was, I could rebuild myself from scratch? And what if I didn't have to rebuild with string at all? I wrote this really late last night.
That was last night.
Yeah. There's a difference between picking apart the mess and actually creating something new. For years, I thought I was figuring myself out, but I was really just rearranging the same broken pieces. Now I was laying down something solid finally. This is when I realized life isn't about finding yourself, it's about creating yourself piece by piece, intentionally, not buying and borrowing other people's pieces to try to make something. This was the first time I wasn't just accepting whatever life handed me. I was trying to make the most of it. My entire life, I was just holding on to pieces that didn't fit, believing that one day it would all come together. I believe that a lot. If I just keep running, it'll all come together. But that day never came. And it never will, because all those pieces, they weren't even made by the same manufacturer. Yeah, I wrote that shit for our first question, and I'm like,
You need to write a book, dude.
why?
That sounded great, dude. I don't think my mind would have even gone. Not to say that it hasn't. I used to journal. I used to
Journal
write
is the
shit down.
best thing you can do.
I used to do that, and a lot of that, That's another one of those things. It's not like I did it for anybody else, but pointed in myself for not journaling when I did some cool stuff. I was building the motorcycles, my first motorcycle. I draw pictures and everything. I'm not a bad artist, but I really enjoyed that. And you remind me of me when you're reading that, when I was able to let my mind and my words get written down. I haven't written something down in a long time, dude. That's poetic.
I can articulate better writing than I can talking. I get like 30 thoughts at once and I don't know which one I'm talking about anymore.
And if you've already got some of it written down, you can keep that train going.
Yeah. But so I never journaled. I thought I had more important things to do.
Right.
And looking back, I didn't do anything important. But
well, and I was that's kind of what I was thinking is when I used to journal or used to just tinker in the shop, messing around with the bikes or messing around with the shop. Now it's like, I gotta build the shop. I gotta finish the shop. It's not because I want to go out in there and work on it. It's okay. Now I have to work on the shop. I have to build the walls. I have to paint the walls,
That's another thing I had a problem with too. I never understood the small victories. As soon as I got something done, I'm thinking, man, well, now I got to paint. It was never, I got a step done.
Yeah.
The way I started journaling was just like this. Instead of writing down my thoughts and stuff, I started writing down, it's a letter to my kids every time. And then I'll give that to them when I die.
Mm-hmm.
But it tells them what they did through the day, what I did, what I was thinking, what I'm trying to do.
Why would you give it to them when you die? Why not give it to them before?
Oh, they can read it before, but that's what they'll have it before I die.
Okay.
That's the reason I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Because in 5 years, my life might be as busy as it was before, and I never have time to think about this.
Do you think you're going to get to that point again?
Yeah.
Being too busy?
Yeah, I get very tunnel vision on stuff. So when I was in here learning to write code, it was like a problem and I couldn't go to sleep until I figured it out.
Mm-hmm.
And so once I got a code or a line to communicate right, I would say, good job, go to bed.
Yeah.
But if I didn't, I'd sit there all night.
It's like playing a video game and you just have to complete this one task before you can go to bed, even though you can save it at any time.
What's worse is it's miserable the whole time too. That was just a scary thought in my head. I started getting into Instagram and Indian and all that stuff. And I thought I was showing my kids how to set a goal and achieve it, which in a way I did because that was my personal goal, but never explained how to achieve it or how to break it down small enough to not overwhelm yourself to start,
Mm-hmm.
Never taught them how to take the steps. I just showed them where the finish line was. That makes sense.
Yeah. How many times has somebody asked you, "Oh, how'd you come to become an ambassador? Like, give me some pointers or something like that." Have you ever had anybody ask you that?
Yep.
And if it's anything like mine, it's like, well, this is the stuff that I was doing. And I mean, one thing you have to have is an Instagram, right? That's
Yep.
just a given, but it doesn't tell you how to use Instagram necessarily. But it was like, well, this is what I was doing, and I think that's what helped me. But I mean, it's not how everybody should be doing it. I don't want somebody to repeat how I did it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want. I'd like to see somebody.
Yeah, because when we got in, we felt like super lucky, like we didn't even know why they picked us.
Yeah.
And now we got people asking us, we're like, we just did random shit until something worked.
We got lucky. We did have some who am I topic or discussion.
Yeah, we can focus on that next time. It felt good just to try to explain what I was thinking. I didn't give you much of a description when we first talked.
Yeah, you did. It was enough. I had I had a good idea what you were trying to achieve here.
Yeah, I just think we can actually leave something that doesn't scare them. Every time she watches the news or whatever, it's always something that is to grab their emotion and make them decide one way or another. And we just show them that. Maybe take the emotion out and look at it from both angles.
How do we learn from that without somebody else telling us this is how you learn from it? How do we apply it to ourselves?
I have a saw. Come over here, I'll show you. No, I heard this saying the other day that stuck with me, and it was that light can only come in through wounds. That's why we only learn through pain. So we have to hurt ourselves and realize we don't know everything before we even think to learn anything.
Hard to know what the good times are if you haven't had any bad times.
All of it's good. I'm not saying that's how I like to learn. I'm just saying I'm dumb and that's how I learn.
Mm-hmm. Having those different experiences, though, makes you a little bit more well-rounded.
Yeah, I don't think I would have ever slowed down to even think about my own thoughts. I would have went 40 years at the power plant working for the government, retire, and think, man, I went through all that just to have this little bit of retirement.
Mm-hmm. That's why I got a motorcycle now, dude.
Exactly. I did the same thing. I was trying to find myself.
Yeah. There's no reason to wait to do everything that you think you want to do in life or after your career. There's no reason to wait to do all that.
Yeah, I have one on religion too. Are you
I
religious?
understand. That's a lot of the good and bad and the right and wrong episode actually is partly religious for me.
I was raised in church. My mom is still very religious, and I've been going to church trying to find something out about myself, and I just keep having questions. And I've been asking people that have experience in that. Nobody has answers for me.
Yeah.
So if there's a God, what is his purpose? Is his purpose just to answer our prayers?
Is that the question for me?
I was asking you.
I don't how I feel right now.
There's no right answers. Just
Yeah. No, I'm not trying to sound like I have the right answer here. This is just how I feel. No, I mean I don't pray anymore. There were times in my life. What's that?
praying's big.
You feel it is? You feel it is?
Yeah.
So, and I've had times in my life where I did, and
Did you do it out loud?
pleaded, whatever the words you want to say. The help that I needed.
Well, you probably got what you needed. He probably tested your ass.
Well, see that I don't know.
That's another thing.
But
Why do we have to go through all these fucking tests? We're
see, and
supposed to.
that and that's I stopped asking those questions. The for me, when people say, "What's the purpose of why is there a God if you believe in God?" To me, right now, it's more of just to know or feel like there's a purpose for everything, not questioning what the purpose is, but just knowing, just thinking,
That's not
that's
meaningless.
that's how it's supposed to be. There's no reason to fight it or get upset about it or whatever. That's how it is. And yep, maybe I got something to learn from it. So that's kind of my view on deity or God or whatever right now.
And if there's a God, and I was always told to look at him as a father because he looks at us as his sons and daughters. Why is he putting us through hell? We wouldn't make that for our kids. Would you make that situation for your kids just to learn, or would you teach them to learn some way else?
Well, but that's the thing though, is did God create that situation, or did you
If he's supposed to
or
be,
your children?
then he
But
knew about it, knows about it, and was there.
right?
Yep.
But so if it was my children and they were doing something that I thought could probably get them hurt, but I let them experience it anyway, so that way they learn for the future and hopefully they don't die. I mean, right? Obviously, if it's life and death threatening, I'm gonna do something about it. With my kids, but for certain situations, I let them learn. I just watch and see what happens, and how they figure stuff out when it doesn't go according to plan.
We can't interfere with their pain. Everybody has to go through the right amount of pain to learn what they need to.
So, and do you think that's God's point of view?
No, I'm saying he created us, every molecule in us. Why did he create us that way? You know what I mean?
So
Why did he create us? Oh, there's all these books of knowledge. Why couldn't we learn from those instead of learning from mistakes? You know what I mean? We have all the knowledge. We can't learn from it until we experience it.
harder to learn from it, yeah.
Like I was in a bad place in my head last January. I had tried to get cleared by every doctor to get back to work to a company that terminated me.
Mm-hmm.
And I even showed up, worked for 5 hours, and they sent me home. Said, "Oh, I didn't know you were here." But I thought I gave 11 years, and as soon as they picture me as a liability, I'm worthless. And I didn't want my kids to feel that. At least when they do feel it, or if they ever feel it, they'll understand it instead of completely going in blind like I felt. Us talking about this and these topics are showing them it's not embarrassing or sensitive, or just because people have their opinions. Everybody can take any word we say and construe it into what they are thinking at the moment. If you're pissed off and we get on a conversation and I mouth off to you, you're going to probably start crying. I'm just kidding. You know what I mean? We're only taught to react with our emotions and not actually think about it. The bad thing is, like before all this, I could tell you that I actually put thought into what I believe or what I was thinking. Like I believed wholeheartedly that I did. So if you could leave your kids with one bit of advice, what would it be? Your thoughts right now, so we can look back at this later. See what I'm doing? I mean, you're going to see how much our perspective shift through this too.
Be a good person. Do things for you. Don't do things to hurt people. And kind of along the lines of, like, don't wait to live your life until you've achieved this, that, or the other thing. If there's something you want to do, go do it. Go figure out how to do it now.
Mm-hmm.
Don't miss out on anything to say you'll do it down the road, because you won't.
Yeah. Don't talk yourself out of the moment.
Something else will come up and you'll want to do that. And you're like, I once wanted to do this.
The farther you push it, the less important it gets too.
Right.
I was thinking about that. I don't know what I'd say to mine. Mine would probably be like, stay curious. Only people that tell you that they can't do it are the people that don't do it. People that's actually done it never tell you you can't. I was listening to those wrong people.
Yeah.
That's what I was basing my self-image on, and I didn't like that self-image. I didn't recognize that self-image when I looked in the mirror. I would say, man, I feel like I'm meant for something, but I don't know what it is. I don't have a fucking clue where even to look. That's how I felt. I don't know how blunt I can be in public. I haven't been in public in over a year.
I think you can be more blunt than you want to now than you used to be. My opinion. What do you think?
I don't really worry about it anymore, honestly.
Exactly. Yeah, that's kind of my point. Yeah.